Did you know that about 3.5 million years ago, fruits and leaves were the only foods available to the earliest human ancestors before they transitioned to plants and animals that only ate plants? Yes. It is correct. As individuality shows, the dietary requirements evolves with time. The concept is very simple. It is easy to forget in daily life that what once worked well for us may no longer meet our needs. Dieting has been a popular topic for humans as long as we can remember. However, the history and evolution of dieting is not as straightforward as we might think. In this mini documentary, we will explore the origins of diets, how dietary trends have evolved over time, and where we stand today, before asking anyone if any diets actually work. Taking a step back to consider how far we've come can help us to see the big picture. Nobody knows how long humans have held a certain physical ideal as the benchmark, with anyone weighing more being considered as overweighted. However, we do know when and where the term diet was dreamed up. Ancient Greece. In its actual meaning, dieta wasn't only about eating certain foods to lose weight, it was designed to integrate food, drink, lifestyle, and exercise. In ancient Greece, the diet was a way to maintain your social status and build strong relationships with your friends. The rich would indulge in delicious foods that were forbidden to the lower classes. Also in ancient Rome, diet was a way to manage one's health and body weight by observing specific dietary laws based on rank in society. The Greeks thought that having a healthy body also meant having a healthy mind. Because your body was as gorgeous and healthy as a Greek god, your mind was also in good shape. Being overweight was not only unattractive, but it was also a symptom of mental instability. Hippocrates, a Greek physician who lived around 400 BC, felt that overweight individuals had sleep problems, aches and pains, flatulence, and constipation, and advised them to eat a strict diet, exercise more, and vomit. Maybe they didn't get it all right, but they understood that a healthy mind and body equaled a good society. As people progress through life's stages, their diets have shifted as well. Hunting and gathering, settling, and farming, cooking, and eating, and processing and buying, the human diet has continued to evolve. Because early humans lacked technologies such as heat and refrigeration, they were forced to rely on the food they came across on a daily basis. Fruits, leaves, and insects were among the items. Perhaps the most significant improvement in our food history occurred around 800,000 years ago: fire. Humans experimented with using heat to cook after discovering fire. Cooking eventually led to the modification of the environment for the purpose of food, rather than being at the mercy of it. Depending on where you live, human agriculture, often known as farming, began roughly 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, when humans transformed their traditional methods of gathering food. Humans had mostly followed a hunter-gatherer lifestyle up to this period. They hunted animals and foraged for edible wild plants. Humans began building tiny gardens and raising animals for nourishment throughout this revolution. Ancient crops like chickpeas and rice in the Middle East and Southeast Asia have remained popular to this day. Around 3,000 years ago, migration introduced new foods into people's diets all throughout the world, which was a tremendous achievement. This resulted in the emergence of new food cultures, such as Mexican cuisine, which is a synthesis of Central American and European cuisines brought to Mexico during the Spanish conquest in the 1500s. Our diets and lifestyles evolved in tandem with technological breakthroughs. Take, for example, the Industrial Revolution, which began roughly 250 years ago. The development of modern food production processes, such as refrigeration, sterilization, pasteurization, and canning for food preservation, was boosted by the growth of farmed areas. People also had more free time, which provided them more opportunities to explore new foods and food trends. Now that we saw the origins of the dieting, let's have the time-lapse adventure, how the various diet trends have come and go over the last century. Being well-nourished is a sign of prosperity and prestige in the 1900s, as it was for most of the Victorian era. A rounded body type indicated this wealth. Sugar and meat were common in the diets. Masticating, or chewing food several times before swallowing, was the most popular diet trend. Processed foods, such as Oreo cookies and marshmallow fluff, first appear in the 1910s. Food labels that focus on precise weight calculations, correct food categorization, and calorie counts have become more common as processed foods have become more popular. For the first time, calorie counting appears. The Roaring Twenties bring an influx of luxury, allowing many people to add convenience items to their homes, such as toasters, refrigerators, and gas stoves. Prohibition was in place from 1919 to 1933, which resulted in less alcohol use. As more people flock to speakeasies for enjoyment, the owners see finger foods as a convenient method for people to snack while drinking. Because slim is trendy for both men and women, the slogan "Reach for a Lucky instead of a Sweet" comes from the rise of cigarette brands. Because of the Great Depression at the end of the 1920s, there was less money for food in 1930s. Menus lost weight, and meat-based meals are limited. One-pot meals are the most popular, and diets surely follow by emphasizing simplicity. The grapefruit diet appears, followed by the banana and skim milk diet, and popularized by the company that later became Chiquita. During World War II, people had very limited access to meat, sugar, butter, milk, cheese, eggs, and coffee. The government, however, encourages household gardening due to the lack of these provisions. And again, food firms adapt to the scarcity of particular foods by manufacturing ready-to-eat and convenience foods with few ingredients, like cake mix. Being an American means being able to buy whatever you want, and the widespread availability of processed meals means that food in the 1950s is nothing unusual. It's the same food that people have been eating since before the war, nothing too spectacular or exotic, and a lot of canned and pouched items. As women return to work after the war, processed and fast foods become more popular, and TV dinners and hamburger chains expand. Pray Your Weight Away, as well as the cabbage soup diet, were popular diets at the time for individuals looking to lose weight. In the late 1960s, jet travel was created. Vacationing all over the world changes people's tastes when they return home. Julia Child introduces French cuisine to American flavors, particularly middle-class palates. While some enjoy classic French cuisine, hippie culture reintroduces unprocessed, raw foods and vegetarianism. Weight Watchers, artificially sweetened Diet Coke, a low-carb forerunner to the Atkins diet, and diet drugs were all popular in the 1960s. During the 1970s, a variety of meals became available, and the increase in immigration from Asian countries means that Asian foods such as Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean become popular. Microwaves have made their way into our homes. While food has been labeled since the early 20th century, the nutrition label has become more popular in this decade. The label tells us what nutrients are in the product, not what foods are in the box. The grapefruit diet reappears, and the Sleeping Beauty diet, in which people are anesthetized rather than eating, becomes more popular. Other diets begin to arrive on the market as society places a greater emphasis on looks, thanks to the expanding nightlife and freedom still felt in the 1960s. During the latter half of the decade, the Hollywood cookie diet replaced meals with cookies. And the high-carb and low-fat, low-sodium Pritikin program became popular, and SlimFast is launched. While the Scarsdale Diet book was published in the late 1970s, the low-carb Mediterranean diet became the decade's most popular, which is still. International cuisines continue to generate attention, from Asian meals to Tex-Mex and Ethiopian cuisines. For the first time, dietary guidelines for Americans are published following with the other countries. People ate more comfort foods, leading to the popularity of diets such as the Beverly Hills Diet, Jenny Craig, and Fit for Life, which emphasizes food combining. As a basic result from previous decades, obesity is on the rise in both children and adults all across the world. Low-fat foods are becoming more popular in the United States as more people try to cut down on their fat intake. Dietary guidelines from the 1980s suggest consuming less fat, which encourages processed food companies to replace sugar for fat. There are tons of articles, How the Big Companies Hooked Us. The international cuisines of the 1980s gives way to a focus on fusion foods. In 1992, the Atkins diet becomes popular. In the 90s, Whole Foods returned, and by the late 1990s, the blood type diet and the zone diet had gained popularity. The Scarsdale diet is still popular, and the internet has made it easier than ever to find recipes, and for anything. The South Beach diet and baby food diet are popular as are various celebrity chefs. Bacon, cupcakes, and juicing are also becoming more popular. Obesity continues to be a growing problem. People are becoming more conscious of what they eat in fast food restaurants as a result of films, which highlight the negative health impacts of eating too much fast food. With a renewed focus on local and sustainable foods, passionate consumption of organics started in the mid-2000s. While the obesity crisis continues to spread, public understanding of the relation between diet and health has grown. The American diet is shifting to emphasize the current health trends, such as kale, paleo, plant-based, Whole30, gluten-free, vegan, and keto. Wellness became an grown industry. People are paying more attention to what they put into their bodies and where it comes from. Avocado toast is popular, as are culinary experiences and any item that looks and tastes good enough to be photographed long after it has been consumed. Instagram influencers may enjoy eating experiences at pop-up restaurants and cafes. So you have followed the thread of dietary trends. Population expansion, the effects of global warming, and food inequity are the main reasons for a fundamental transformation in how we think about food. From lab-grown meat, edible insects, and seaweed to a sharper trend toward plant-based diets and significant changes in food production and agriculture, the food we eat in the coming decades will evolve more dramatically. Please comment below. Which diet decade or phases do you find most interesting? And why? Which ways of eating work best for you, which you can find more details in our other videos. But the most important question, after all these regulations, what the world faced during the last years, what trends do you imagine becoming popular in the current decade, or how fast our eating habits will evolve? Thanks for watching. We will follow up the next trends, so you should do the same. Because as stated once in the past, you are what you eat.